Hello, good afternoon, everyone. We are about to start shortly.
Good afternoon, Zephaniah.
Yes, Nathan, good afternoon.
Good afternoon
we
to
are
you.
shortly about to start. I've already seen our panelists. Welcome all panelists, Mr. Paul Coy, Mr. Amit Saga, Brenda, and yes, I leave this to Edie. Welcome, sir. Honorable Peter Mathuki, I leave it to you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone, and I would want to invite all of you to the East African Business Council and, of course, our EAC Chambers of Commerce in response to COVID-19 and the recovery strategy. You know, the role, very important role played by Chambers of Commerce in our economies, and of course, at the regional level, both the East African Business Council and the Chambers of Commerce, we have a strategic partnership that is all geared towards promoting the role of private sector in the region. Of course, in line with the treaty establishing the East African Community, which clearly stipulates the role of private sector as the driver of the region. And therefore, of course, during this very difficult moment for businesses, we've been doing, of course, sectoral webinars. Of course, we had very specific webinars in relation to how business and the environment is in the region and how it's affected by COVID. And of course, we felt it's important that we engage also with the Chambers of Commerce, given, of course, the significant role that they play at the national level, at the grassroots level when you come to businesses, and also now coming to the regional level, how they perceive things. And that is why it's very important that we had to have this. Of course, we'll be joined by very eminent persons, of course, in their role, in their, of course, experiences, not only in business, but obviously the role they are played to promote the Chambers of Commerce in the region, in other partner states, and again, of course, in diaspora. Of course, we are joined by Mr. Paul Coy. Mr. Paul Coy is the president of Tanzania Chamber of Commerce and Industry and Agriculture, and is there this afternoon, and we are so privileged to have you, Mr. Coy, Mr. President, sir. And obviously, we'll be listening to you in terms of how you perceive this challenge going forward, and how we'll be readjusting to the new normal. We also joined by Mr. Benson Kasue. Mr. Benson Kasue is a founding chair of the East African Chamber of Commerce in Dallas, in Texas, United States, and he's here with us. And he'll be telling us, obviously, what is the experience like in the diaspora. And of course, given the importance of diaspora into our economies in the community, then of course, how is it likely to be affected, the inflows particularly of incomes that we always get from diaspora, and what is the experience like out there in terms of responding to COVID? What is it that we need to do differently in East Africa? Of course, learning from the experiences in the United States. Of course, we have Mr. Taufik Tarki. Taufik Tarki is the president, again, of the Chamber of Zanzibar National Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture. Mr. Taufik will be with us, and will be also again to share with us particularly the experience of businesses touching across all the sectors, even in tourism. And I know he's very eloquent in that. We have Madam Olive Kigongo. Madam Olive Kigongo is the president of Uganda National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And again, we'll be privileged to understand how they are making the curve flatten in Uganda, and of course, how they see the new normal is going to be like in businesses, and what is it that we need to do as private sector in the region. And again, we have Mr. Amit Sanga. Mr. Amit Sanga is the director and the CEO of Pearl Dairy Farms Limited, Uganda. And again, they are part of the team of businesses that have been in the front line of ensuring that, of course, the foods that supplies are constantly supplied to consumers. and therefore we'll be able to listen from him, understand how the situation is like. Of course, there'll be a number of ground rules that we are going to adhere to, and the first one is, of course, when you are not speaking, you mute your microphone, and of course, when you are speaking, you put on your microphone. We must, of course, have a dialogue that is respectful, and of course, appreciate the views of the rest. We will be, of course, all geared towards contributing to the goals of the meeting, which is how then chambers and as part of private sector have responded meaningfully to the fight against COVID in the region. Of course, we'll be focusing on regional perspectives, but of course, borrowing a lot of experiences from the national issues and what is happening. We'll be purely focusing on the topic on how we'd want to respond. And remember, almost like 2 months down the line with COVID in the region, we are now, most of the economies are thinking of rebounding. So we must start now thinking on how to perspectives for coming back into business. Of course, there will be questions. We expect there are many people following our social media platforms, in Twitter, in Facebook, in Instagram, and all of them. And indeed, others are following live. And therefore, we will encourage all of them to send your queries, of course, into the chat room. And for your just information and consent, again, this meeting is recorded, and is recorded for ensuring that, of course, we give true record of what is going on. And therefore, now it is 7 minutes past time, and if it is 5 minutes past time, we want to make sure that we finish this by 16 hours. 16 hours, and making sure that we focus. Remember, the reason why we want to engage at this point is that whatever discussion that we're going to have in this platform will be contributing to the policy making at the regional level and the national level. Some of the ideas, suggestions that we are putting across as private sector. As Eabc, we've been pushing for EAC coordinated approach, so that whatever is happening in one partner state, it happens in other partner states. It becomes easy, cheaper for all of us in terms of responding to the challenge, and also coordination when you come to recovery, getting back into business. And that is why we have been on top of it. We've been focused on cross-border trade, a lot of movement of cargo, and ensuring that we support movement of cargo across our borders. As Eabc, we've been involved at, of course, what is happening, and we work closely with all of you, including the chambers, and what is happening at our borders. That is Namanga, of course, Rusumo, Nimule in South Sudan and Tanzania, Malaba, and of course, and Busia, and many others, including Mutukula and other borders that, of course, are within East Africa. And we've been on that. In fact, as we speak, we are attending a meeting. There's a meeting happening now of the ministers of East Africa, trying to recheck the directives of the heads of state during their meeting that they held last, and trying to see what needs to be done better. And I was, I'm in that deliberation. Therefore, I felt it's important that I come and give the introduction to this. And therefore, start off the meeting. And of course, my colleagues who are in this meeting will be able to proceed with it to make sure that we really get good, proposals out of this meeting, which will form a communique to the Council of Ministers as one voice of private sector, and of course as a private sector East African Business Council. And therefore, that's why at some point I'll be requesting my colleague Nathan to, of course, proceed. But I thought it's important that we let you know that we appreciate you as chambers, and we recognize the role you are doing, and we need this partnership to proceed. Remember, we had a joint meeting sometimes in Zanzibar, trying to think together on how we can harmonize the voice of private sector. And from then, we've been, of course, having programs and activities that are all geared towards working together. because you see, speaking in one voice as private sector will give us a lot of energy at the regional level. And that's why we cannot afford at all to work in isolation. So we speak in one voice. And that's why we are appreciating and recognizing the role you are playing into this meeting. So just to be sure that all our panelists are in here. I hope Ben Kasue is in the house.
Yes, I am in the house, yes.
Thank you very much for joining. I know it's very early in the United States. It should be almost 7 in the morning or 6 in the morning. And thank you for creating time for your own region, East Africa. We don't take that for granted. We appreciate, and it's your home. It's in the best interest that you make sure that whatever views and suggestions you give in this platform, they will be useful to our own economies in East Africa. And thank you very much and most welcome. And then I hope Mr. Paul Koi is in the house, President of Tanzania Chamber. Paul Koi, you can unmute. Is Paul Koi in the house? Paul Koi. Mr. Tofik, Zanzibar Chamber. I can see their names, but they're not responding. Koi, are you in? Mr. Olive Kigongo, Madam Olive Kigongo, Miss Olive Kigongo.
Miss Olive Kigongo, I'm representing her for the time being. I'm Brenda Tivamwenda.
Yeah.
Secretary
Thank
General.
You. Yeah, thank you. And Amit Saga, you're there? I can see you.
Yes, thank you. I'm down.
Okay. Yeah. So thank you very much for this. This is important. I will now leave, as I told you, I'll leave this session to be moderated by Nathan. Nathan Gashuja is our national liaison officer for Rwanda, and is here. You'll be able to take us through this. I'll be again running into a meeting where the ministers are meeting to discuss the challenges that we are having at the borders. You know, our borders are still having a lot of challenges, and we hope to resolve this. But I'll be in this, and therefore wish you all the best as we deliberate. I hope Nathan is in the house. Nathan. Nathan, are you in the house? Can you unmute, Nathan?
I'm online, sir.
Yeah, please make sure that you are taking over now. Now we proceed straight away into business. It is almost 1:15. You manage time so that we get the best out of this. All the panelists are in the house. So please proceed, and wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, Dr. Matuki. I welcome members who have joined. Straight to the program, allow me to invite the Secretary General of Uganda Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Madam Brenda Tivamwenda, to go on and tell us the COVID response as per Uganda Chamber of Commerce and the recovery plans. Karibu, Madam Brenda.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. As per the Uganda National Chamber of Commerce, I think whatever we are going through is not unique, because I believe all of us around the globe are going through the same. But what we have tried to put in place, since as a chamber we have tried to advocate for our different members, because we all know that there has been a sloth in business activity due to the lockdown that has greatly affected many businesses in Uganda. And due to that lockdown, basically, there's been very, very little business activity in the country. And a number of people have been greatly affected with basically very little incomes coming in, very little business activity going on. Transport has been a very big problem, and different sectors have been affected in their own different ways. And as Chamber, towards our members, we are actually trying to advocate strongly in different aspects that are concerning the different business activities. For instance, one, we have been relying greatly on our different partners across the globe, and with the closure of different borders and entry points to the country, you find that, for example, the exporters are finding it difficult to actually send out merchandise, and the different international markets have been affected. We are a country that greatly depends on imports, China, Dubai, so most of those markets are closed. And because of inactivity, many of our members have actually closed shop. So we have come up to advocate on behalf of our members on how government can come in to actually assist our members, what comes after the COVID pandemic, after this lockdown, basically, because I believe the COVID pandemic will take some time before it actually gets away. But we are basically looking at how imports and export linkages can be made better to benefit those different members that have been greatly carrying out a lot of export. Then to the transportation has also been a problem. It is common knowledge that without proper movement of goods, it is difficult to actually meet our demands and meet the supplies in question. And government right now is working out a way to actually see that transport gets better and the transport systems and value chains and supply chains get better in order for these different players to meet their different demands so that they can supply goods wherever they are needed. And we are faced with liquidity issues, financial liquidity issues, according to our members. When I say we, I'm basically speaking on behalf of our members. We are basically working more with the bankers because you can understand that many of our SMEs, many of our members actually depend on our banks for liquidity purposes. And of course, we do have banks that are also our members, and their main concern is how these loans are going to be serviced and managed by the different members that took these loans. So we actually in talks, and I think our central government, central bank, had actually come up with a write-up on how to guide different banks on different interest rates, how this can be best managed to suit both the members and the banks as well to also stay in operations. Because we shall not only look at one side of the coin, but we also have to put into consideration the banks and how they stay in operations. And yeah, basically, so far, I think that's what we are doing. There's a lot of advocacy going on for different. Yes, please.
Thank you, Madam Brenda. You've touched a lot on recovery plans, what the government is doing, what the chamber is doing. Can you briefly tell us what EABC and what you think EABC and chambers of commerce can jointly work together to ensure business continuity during and after this pandemic? Because remember, your chamber that you represent and EABC have been working together. What should we carry forward even after COVID?
Yes, I believe what we can do together as Chamber of Commerce and the EABC, I believe we are going to have to come up with a lot of co-hosting of trainings, because like you said, the ED said, if we work together, I think we shall have a stronger voice. So my suggestions are, we are going to have to come up with a lot of co-hosting of events, like trainings, capacity building, because I've had a lot of people talking about reskilling of labor, reinvention of businesses. So I believe this is whatever we do, the EABC and our chamber are going to have to come up with this so that we move as one. And then two, I believe we also have to speak more now. We need to use a bigger umbrella, whereby we are not going to have to be dealing with just one chamber or whatever it is. For example, if we have to ask for grants, could EABC be our bigger umbrella so that all of us get under this umbrella to ask for these grants? I believe when we ask for these bigger grants and we have a bigger voice speaking and we are one, the donors out there will listen to us more, instead of each one of us having to venture on our own. And with the reskilling and reinvention, I know many things are not going to remain the same. Businesses are going to change, operational standards are going to change. We are not going to do things as usual. So how do we help our members to actually manage this change? This is actually a change that has come and that needs great coping mechanisms and change management skills. So I believe we are going to have to come up with better strategies to better manage the change that is coming. For example, like right now, I believe all of us should have gathered maybe in Arusha, which we can't do. And we are now we are online holding these meetings. There are many of our members out there that would need all this information. Information dissemination is going to be key. So we are going to work out better information management systems as EABC and Chamber of Commerce to reach bigger numbers of people, bigger numbers of members. How do we help them? We need to pass out all this information. There's a lot of information going on, how governments are making things better, different grants being given, different monies, liquidation coming into play, but not many of our members actually have this information. So I think this is where we are going to have to work together, EABC, Chamber of Commerce, and many other chambers, of trying to help our members better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Brenda. I'm hearing you well when you talk about information management systems, because the business will not be as usual. The rules of the game will change as well, and our rapporteurs are taking note of that. Thank you very much, Madam Brenda. You will come again on question and answer session. Okay. Let us now proceed. Do we have Mr. Paul Koi from Tanzania online? Mr. Paul Koi or his representative? Or else we proceed to Mr. Tofik. Mr. Paul Koi, can you hear me? Mr. Paul Koi, can you hear me? We want to hear from Tanzania Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Oh yes, there is not yet in. Let's proceed to Mr. Tofik Taki, Chairman, East African Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Zanzibar. Mr. Tofik, can you hear me? I saw you online. So, Mr. Tofik online?
Moderator,
yes,
I wish to Sorry for interrupting. I just wish to report that Mr. Polkoy is in the meeting and is trying to unmute his mic, but I think he's getting some difficulties. And the representative from Zanzibar will join also shortly. I've been informed about that. So I think we can proceed with Mr. Amit while Mr. Koi is trying to, and representative from Zanzibar to join.
Mr. Amit, can you hear me too?
Yes, I can. Thanks.
Thank you very much, CEO. Given the experience from the dairy sector, how have value chains in EAC region been affected by COVID-19 pandemic? And you will again proceed and tell us how your company, Pearl Dairy Farm Limited, has managed to address these challenges brought by COVID and any other mitigation measure that you would proceed. Karibu CEO, please carry on.
Thank you. So, we operate in all the East African countries. So our manufacturing is in Uganda, and we buy milk from over 10,000 farmers in Uganda, dairy farmers in Uganda, and we sell our products in all EAC countries. So we understand the EAC challenges very well, and can also give you some insights on what's happening currently. So first of all, in the value chain, since COVID, there's been a lot of logistics challenges for our farmers, as well as logistics challenges within EAC with the border movements. Secondly, the consumers' habits have changed because of COVID. On-the-go products have reduced consumption. Hotels and restaurants have closed. So a lot of dairy products are being consumed by this specific channel. So there has been a change in consumption habits by consumers as they spend more time at home. And we are seeing that products such as yogurt, cheese are reducing in terms of consumption across the region. And of course, the base product, which is white milk, is still stable because it's required for tea and other daily needs of our consumers. The biggest challenge we have in EAC, and I think EAC works very well for non-competing products. So, for example, in Uganda, salt comes in from Kenya, and it's very competitive from Mombasa. There's normally no issues in terms of non-tariff barriers, etc. However, when it comes to agriculture and local consumed agriculture, when we look at the value chain for milk and the dairy sector, we look at chicken, we look at livestock, we look at anything which is produced in all three countries, we are noticing a lot of non-tariff barriers being implemented across the member states, which is to the detriment of EAC. So, for example, in the dairy sector, we've got non-tariff barriers to Tanzania. We've got limitations of exports to Kenya from Uganda. And effectively, as a business, we are now being forced to see whether we should now be setting up smaller plants in all the countries, because when the weather is in agriculture, it's all about demand and supply. So when it's raining, like it has been raining for the past 8 or 9 months, there's a lot of surplus in all the markets. And what happens is each market starts locking out the other. And when it's the dry season, they don't mind, because onions can come in from Tanzania without any issues. Eggs can come in from Uganda without any issues. But especially when there is excess, I think one of the key things that we need to address to the governments of EAC is that we have integrated as a customs union, but we need to kind of integrate in terms of our ministries and especially look at the products which are commonly distributed and produced in each of the countries, on how we can join the production and our policies so that East Africa can feed the rest of Africa, rather than competing and blocking products from the market, as is happening recently. Just to give you statistics, Africa imports around $5 billion of dairy a year. And it's very easy for East Africa working together to actually meet that production in the next 10 to 15 years and feed the whole of Africa. There's no need for any importation of dairy, given the number of cattle we have in East Africa. So I think the main message is that during COVID, we've seen a reduction in consumption of key agricultural commodity products, and where there is where all the member states are producing the same products, there is some level of protectionism being done by the respective governments, which is to the detriment of some of the member states like Uganda when it comes to dairy. And the other thing what we are doing as a company now is that we are following the change of the consumer and how their habits are changing. And we are coming up with new products that meet the new requirements of our consumers, which is now that's going to be staying more at home. And effectively, we need to change the products that we sell to them. So that's something which we're doing in addition to the other things.
Thank you so much, Amit, for that insight, and actually much more on value chains, on supply chains, and an assignment you are giving us on continued advocacy on NTBs. That is what we do as EABC, and thank you for raising it up again. We need to continue with this advocacy for NTBs elimination. Now, let me proceed to Tanzania again and check whether Mr. Paul Hoy.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Yes.
We can hear you, sir.
Yes, I'm here. Good afternoon. Hello?
Good afternoon, sir. Welcome.
Yes. First of all, thanks a lot for this session. I'm glad that I'm part of the team, and the COVID-19 has really brought up a new phenomenon in the world where actually we shall not forget, if I'm right to say. The pandemic has really caused a lot of disaster, like all over every day we hear. And apart from being a health hazard, it has been really very big problem to the business or to the economy, just to say. With all the effects that actually my colleagues have pointed out, were coming from the lockdown, lack of sales, whatever the transport problems, the cutoff of chains, business activities being highly interrupted, completely down in parts of the sectors, and international markets being closed, etc., etc. Because COVID looks like that is here to stay with us. The most important that we can do is to make sure that how we live with it and how we go on living post-COVID. And I think this is very, very, very important when it comes to the issue of the recovery. And a joint efforts, joint experience sharing, joint working together could prove very successful, because we can share various experiences and the best practices to see how we came out of, we come out of this disaster. I call it a disaster because some of the businesses and most SMEs definitely will die or are already dead. And we have to revamp them back to make sure that the economy recovers back. Let me say one important thing as far as this situation is. We as chambers within the East Africa, we need to pool our efforts together with our governments. Probably I would suggest that under our own guidance, let us come up with one of the very clear documents that could be submitted to the governments and see how we can pool our efforts together and revive back the economy. I'm not sure up to this moment if at all we have a one-way forward linking that say our government are very clear that this is what we can do with chambers to make sure that the situation recovers back. Hello?
Yes, Mr. Porokoi, please proceed. Proceed, Mr. Porokoi. Proceed.
Okay.
Proceed.
Okay. Yes, I proceed. Yeah, issues.
Yes, sir.
I'm saying the. Yes, I was saying that let us come with one very clear document as our contribution from the Chambers of Commerce to make sure that we really bring up the situation. Personally, I'm very disappointed to say when I see what recently happened between our borders. Today, I was just looking at one of the video with more than 50 kilometers. I think it's between Uganda and Kenya. I'm not sure if this is true, but I've seen that video, and I say, hey, what is happening? We are struggling to make sure that we must improve the situation within the East African bloc to make sure that our businesses are being recovered up. But what is this going on? Are we again adding on top of the pandemic effect? We are also hammering on top of it. Are we serious? Or are we just talking? And let me give an answer that, please, this is one of the efforts that we could come up with in a paper advising our governments to make sure that trade facilitation across the borders is something that can really contribute a lot to remedy the situation, the waste situation that's already on the ground. We have to encourage for the imports and exports to make sure that the business is happening through transportation and logistics. I agree with Madam from Uganda who talked about the financial liquidity issues, particularly to the SMEs. We work with the banks. Almost all the businesses have in one way or another loans from the banks. The banks have been equally hit. The businesses have been equally hit. This is one of the areas that we can come up also with something very constructive under EABC and on our own cooperation to make sure that we advise our government in a very, very, very certain way for them really to see and adapt and come back for a joint effort. In these financial issues, I think one issue goes without saying that we would like dearly to request the banks to consider restructuring the loans that are on the ground. Definitely the loans cannot be really repaid. This is one of the very critical post-recovery measures that let the banks critically think the way they can come up with a new restructuring for all these loans that are already on the ground, particularly to the SMEs. You find somebody who are paying, say, making a repayment of Tanzania shillings, I would say 5 million, today cannot repay even 1 million. But all in all, these are our businesses. We must grow them up. We must boost them up so that we come back to build our economy. But not only that, I think also deliberate effort to make sure that, say, the regional banks like East Africa Development Bank, this is one of the areas that they could play the role to make sure that we have some boosted funds from our own efforts to try recover back our businesses. My understanding, these are development bank, and this is one of the most important area that they should now come up and prove that, hey, help us here. The moderator, I'm trying to go straight away to the issue that we can do in order, along the recovery lines or recovery way.
Yeah, that's it,
back.
Mr. Paul.
Sorry?
That's very fine, Mr. Paul. That's very fine. Proceed with priorities of the recovery plan.
Okay, yeah. But also I think when it comes to taxes, we should advise our government to reconsider also the taxes, where it will be not very fair to play the field from the big investment companies and the SMEs. As, for example, it's now being applied in Tanzania. The rules are the same, the laws are the same. But I think we could come up with a very deliberate efforts where we could focus our specific eyes to the SMEs and see how we can really help them out, unlike the corporates who have several ways of mitigating such risk that has happened, insurances against the investment and things like that. But barely when it comes to SMEs, they are completely naked. So coming up with such strategies also could help. That these companies or the SMEs are being waved out, if not reshadowed. But when it comes to also, I would say corporates like, for example, the electricity corporates in various countries, the water corporates in various countries, would still also sit down and see what can they contribute. I believe what they were charging at the market rate could be reduced, however small a percentage, just to give an leeway and a room to relieve the businesses out of the mess that they are trying to face at the moment. And even if the rates remain the same, then at least for those businesses that were over-indebted could be restructured and see how we help them out. In my opinion, if such steps or such measures really bring up the priority to make sure that we come back. Let me say one thing very important. You know, this has been a value chain that almost all the sectors have been affected. And should we deliberately take efforts to bring back or to give it back the one of the sector, definitely will induce the rest directly or indirectly. I don't want to talk much about tourism. I understand Taufik will talk about it. But if you could really put up effort and strategic measures to make sure that tourism comes back, that will inject a lot into other sectors to start the chain running. So at the moment, let me leave it there, my moderator, to leave the room for others, but that is all what I had for this first session.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I heard you well when you mentioned that we should make use of our own institutions like East African Development Bank in financing the recovery plan. I also heard you well when I heard about advocacy on taxes. It's very, very good points to take to consider in our activities way forward. Thank you very much, Paul. I will invite you again when there are a number of questions to answer. Let me now proceed to Taufik from Zanzibar. Taufik Take is the chairman, East African Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and currently the Zanzibar National Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture. Taufik, if you are online, with Zanzibar having a strong linkage to the global market, how has it been affected by COVID-19? And as you well know that Zanzibar has a competitive advantage in tourism sector. How has this tourism sector in Zanzibar been affected, and what measures do you have in place to mitigate the effects of COVID? Taufik, if you are online, please proceed.
Hello, good afternoon.
Can you hear me? Good afternoon, Taufik.
Thank you. This is Hamad Hamad. I am the Executive Director of Zanzibar National Chamber of Commerce. Thank you very much. I'm speaking on behalf of Mr. Taufik, who is not feeling well, so he's requested me to say something about Zanzibar, and I will respond to your guiding questions. And we are depending on tourism 80% of the national income. And with the coming of COVID-19, the whole thing has been disrupted. I mean, the whole tourism sector has been disrupted. And as I said, all the other sectors are dependent and are directly linked to the tourism sector. And that is to say that all other sectors have been affected alike. So that when we talk about the value chain, I mean, the whole value chain system has been disrupted. Industries, we're talking about manufacturing, we talk about logistics, financial services, all of these things have been disrupted. As you understand that Zanzibar, as you said, we have a very competitive market when it comes to tourism. So in the middle of March, the government has decided to restrict, to put restriction of all international flights to come to Zanzibar. And that's when the problem started. Now we find so many employees have lost their jobs. We have so many people who have debts in the banks that cannot repay their debts in the banks. But we, as a Chamber of Commerce, we tried our best to advocate both for the businesses, but also for the employees, because as we all know, the business cannot run if there are no workers who can work in those sectors. So we have requested the government of Zanzibar to jump in and offer some stimulus packages, as we have seen in other countries. We are grateful to the government because they did something that at least it could help, because what they did is to give kind of tax amnesty, and by this they forgave all the debts that the companies owed the government from December 2019 downward. But this, of course, could not benefit those companies which are strictly following the rules. So we still requested the government, because as we all know, there are some companies which are very reliant. I mean, they are very rule followers. When the government says you have to pay taxes, you have to do this, they do that immediately. So these companies, they could not benefit from this tax amnesty, because this tax amnesty, it forgave the debts of the companies that owe the government 2019 downward. And most of these companies had already paid their dues to the government, so they could not benefit from this system. So we've been asking the government to do something for these companies as an incentive to continue investing in Zanzibar. And some of these companies are, the owners of this company are coming from abroad. But we have also requested the government to support the companies to maintain their employees. We are very grateful because most of the companies, despite all these challenges, they tried their best to keep the employees intact, to keep the employees getting salaries. Of course, the companies could not pay 100% of the salaries, but at least those employees, they have families, they have to survive, especially during these hard times. So, yeah, the government, we requested them to do two things. One is to use the Zanzibar Social Security Fund to support the companies, because we pay there every month. So with that fund, they could support the employees or the companies to maintain the employees. And the other one is to request the State Bank, we have People's Bank of Zanzibar, to give kind of soft loans to the employees, so that when the business resumes, they can pay back those loans slowly. Unfortunately, we have not got any tick to any of these two requests. But as a Chamber of Commerce, we continue to do whatever we can do to support our businesses, but also to support our people in Zanzibar. We are very grateful to East African Business Council, because we have been having these meetings, weekly meetings, and I have always been requesting or encouraging the local tourism. Now we should focus on the local tourism, starting with, for example, Zanzibaris, Tanzanians, and then East Africans to rotate in our countries, in our areas, so that we can support each other, at least to revive this sector that holds other sectors. So our ED, Executive Director of East African Business Council, has taken this approach and he has forwarded it to the Council of Ministers, and I hope this will be taken. But for us now, as a Chambers of Commerce, we have to motivate our members, our tourism sectors, to focus on our own local tourism. Rwandans to go to Kenya, Kenyans to go to Uganda, Ugandans to visit all over, so that we can start our own initiative and we can now be thinking internally instead of waiting for Chinese to come and Germans and others to come. Now we have to build our own base of tourism so that we can revamp our tourism sector. I think I can stop there, and unless there are any questions, then I can come back again. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ed Hamad. I heard you well on Zanzibar experience in COVID mitigation. I heard you well on plans you have for tourism sector in Zanzibar. You are encouraging local tourism. You are encouraging East African tourism. And of course, in partnership with EABC, we shall work together hand in hand, make sure that tourism in East Africa is made a priority. Thank you very much. I will invite you just in case there is something to answer. Without delay, let me check whether my brother from Kenya, Richard Ngatia, is online. And if not, anybody from Kenya National Chamber of Commerce. And if none, then we check on our brother from US, Benson Kasue, the founder of East African Chamber of Commerce. First of all, is anybody from Kenya National Chamber of Commerce online? Let's have Benson Kasue. Benson, are you hearing me?
Yes, I can hear you very well. Good afternoon, everybody, and good morning to those in the US. My name is Benson Kasue. I want to introduce to you who we are. This is my first time in the rodeo with you. I represent the East Africa Chamber of Commerce in the United States of America. We are a 15-year-old organization. Our mission is to promote trade and investment between US and East Africa. That's why we are formed. We are a non-profit organization. We're headquartered in Dallas, Texas. We have a 13 board membership that is very diverse. It comes from all the 5 East Africa member countries, including all of you represented here, and the United States. Our partners are the embassies in DC of the East African business, East African communities. They include also the US private sector, US Chambers of Commerce, government agencies. We have East Africa Business Council as a partner, Council of Governors of Kenya. We also have Venture Lift Africa, an organization headquartered in Kenya. We have a current chair. Our current chairwoman is from Uganda, as a matter of fact. Her name is Elsa Joko Magdao. Her website is displayed. You can learn more about us at www.eachamber.org and see what we do. But our core values are to establish business linkages, empower entrepreneurs, facilitate trade opportunities, enhance economic interaction, and clear guidance to sustainable development. That's what our core values are. Our synergies, what we find synergies are to market each country. So since we represent the East African community, we market each of those countries. Every year we have a 3-day convention in Dallas where we invite the business sector and private sector, as well as government organizations, include each one of those countries represented. We come to Dallas, we bring the diaspora together, we bring the business people from the US, and we facilitate trade. We've been successful in doing so in the last 15 years. You've seen a lot of huge deals that have been crafted at this conference. So we want to be able to promote your economies, your countries, your governments want to do that. That's what we really we can synergize with you. You as chambers of commerce, we want to work with you. We have people that come to us, organizations looking for connections in East Africa. Currently, I have one on the table. I have a company looking for poultry business. If they want to invest in poultry, they want to spend quite a bit of money investing in poultry, but they want specifically this to be in Kenya. That's their choice. They are not in the US. So if you know somebody in that area, please let me know. We can start talking and try to introduce you to these people and see what we can do. We have multiple partners. We have a lot of partners. Our partners, you guys, we have the US Commercial Services. I just have a flyer that shows some of the last year's partners who they were, and after this, they can share this information with you. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. One of our partners, first, actually, they like to do hunting. They come to Tanzania a lot. The Dallas Safari Club, they send a lot of people all over the Africa to go hunting. So that's a tourism industry booster. Now, let me talk about what you asked me to talk today, this morning, my time, coping with COVID-19 in the US. As you know, when this event took place, everybody was confused and disturbed. So we didn't know what to do, but our government here in the United States acted swiftly. They enacted a law, the legislation rather, called CARES Act. The CARES Act injected $2.2 trillion in the US economy to help provide fast and direct economic assistance to American workers, families, and small businesses in efforts to preserve jobs. And they also provided assistance to local and state government to help them fight the pandemic. What that really meant was they provided sort of free money for every household every couple got $400. Just not enough, but it does pay the bill for the first time. But what they went beyond that. They also, here people get unemployment when they are not unemployed. Right now we have 40 million people employed in the US, but they put $600 per week for anybody who is unemployed. They give them that kind of money to at least help pay the bills. That's about $2,400 a month. That's good money. Some people, and then plus that they get money that if they're working before that, the companies normally pay them for the insurance purposes. So you're gonna get about $3,000 to $4,000 a month. That's pretty good. And because they could not move, we're locked down. We could not go anywhere. You could not go to work, and so the government wanted to make sure that you're able to pay your bills and put food on the table. The other piece they did was to give what they call PPP, Paycheck Protection Program. And that they went to every company that had employees and offered them a 2.5 months worth of pay for their monthly payroll. If your payroll was $1 million, they'll give you $2.5 million to spend that within 2 months. If you don't spend, it becomes a loan at only 1%. And the reason they did that was to ensure that you continue to pay these workers, and because they're not working, but keep them on your payroll and make sure that when things recover, they come back to work again. Things are not disrupted. That is not, that has provided some challenges to some and opportunities for many. But they also provided another $2 million opportunity for companies that they can borrow money from government at 3.75% for 30 years. That is a very, very cheap commercial loan you can get anywhere. So that's a great thing. The other thing they've done, they're now currently working on a $3 trillion injection of currency funds to the economy. That is still being negotiated by our Congress and Senate to see what they can. But they will have another stimulus that will, and this is intended to go to every major company in the country that will help them. So that's a big help. I wish we're in a position in East Africa to provide such activities. I was asked to discuss the diaspora remittances, and I thought when I looked at that topic, I thought there'll be reduction in diaspora remittances because our people are unemployed, and maybe businesses are very much affected. And so I thought maybe in the future we'll know what this means. But here's what I found. I put a quick analysis of diaspora remittances from North America, and I focus on Kenya only because Kenya remits the most amount of money from diaspora in the region. And I compared January through April last year and the year before and this year, and I was surprised. I noticed that those remittances this year are higher than last year. And so I think January we remitted $124 million in February, and compared to previous year, which was 108. Last year we did 111 in February. 97 in February. This year we did 111. Previously we did 116. So you can see the trend. Even today in April we did 119 million versus 116 last year. So I think this tells me something about the diaspora. Diaspora is, we know that our region is hurting, and we want to send money to our families and friends, loved ones, to make sure that we help them through this recovery process, because they cannot go to work, and we don't know if there are incentives or stimulus packages given to them. So we are sharing our stimulus with them. And in fact, I think I sent more money this month than I've done ever in my life to my loved ones in Kenya. So I think this is a good thing, because we are trying to help where our people cannot, where people are needing help. So I want to really focus more on some of the questions that you had raised, which is what can be done by this group here to ensure that the recovery is taking place. And I've been thinking through that. I'm thinking some of the things that the Kigongo from Uganda mentioned are very fitting. I also like to go further than that and try to find out if the governments there have the capacity to provide stimuluses and provide the business people opportunity to continue to remain active, because if not, some companies will go under. We as a chamber, we are here to promote your countries, to promote your businesses, because you cannot travel anymore. You cannot do these conferences. Every year we have a conference here in Dallas. We will be doing it mostly quite virtually. Now is an opportunity for us, the East African Chamber of Commerce, to connect with you. The companies here look to us. We are the most vetted, most respected organization from Africa for that purpose, that facilitates trade. So engage us. Let us share some of the companies that want to come and do business there and get you more talking to them at very low cost, because you don't have to fly here to meet them. We can do that. We can facilitate that. So those are some of the things I think that we considered. Political egos have to be kept in check, kept put away, so that we don't create cross-border problems that affects trade. So I think I think those are some of the things I think we can discuss about. And but I'll stop there, moderator, and I'll be very happy to answer some questions towards the end of this and share some of my interests. Yes.
Thank you very much, Benson. First of all, we are very appreciative of all these efforts that you've made really to make it. We know it's very early in the US now, and you've been with us all through. Thank you very much. I'm very hopeful for all those experiences. We shall invite you again to shed some more light on questions that will come in. Before going to questions and answer session, let me hear if there is a representative from Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I saw somebody online called Yoa, representing Richard Ngatia. Am I correct? Representative of Kenya Chamber of Commerce, so that we can proceed to another session. Hello? I'm sure Kenya Chamber of Commerce is in the house. Any representative? Meanwhile, as I wait a representative from Kenya Chamber of, as I wait for the representative from Kenya Chamber of Commerce, let me go back to Uganda. Madam Brenda, are you online? Are you with me?
Yes, I am.
Yes. Madam Brenda, I want to ask you, how have women-owned enterprises been impacted by COVID-19 in Uganda, and how are you supporting them, especially your members, women enterprises specifically?
Okay. Thank you very much. The women have equally been impacted, just like the men, I should say, because with the lockdown, this has affected all of us, both the men and the women. But unique to the women here, one, I think I need to also point out their role in the home, because it goes hand in hand. One of the major aspects that we've actually got from our female members is capital, the capital that they had for their businesses. They have had to actually use it to feed families. And in so doing, many are concerned about how they will pick it up when the lockdown is lifted, how they start all over again with their businesses. And you'll find that most of our female members work in arcades, which arcades are still locked, and most of them are mainly involved in clothing, the clothing sector, where they import clothes from China, Dubai. Now, these are markets that right now, I should say, are inaccessible due to the fear of the COVID pandemic and all. So many of them actually do not know what next. And because they're not sure now how they will be getting merchandise from the said markets, they are not sure now how they start and whatever it is. Then also with the capital, like I have said, capital has been used up to feed families, because as mothers, it would be very difficult to look at a family starving to death and you have some money on you and you cannot use it. So that has also been another problem. And kindly excuse me, briefly, just a power. Thank you. So the other problem with the female businesses, there's been a lot of spoilage of stock. We have a number of our members involved in the agriculture sector. And with the cutting off of transportation, effective transportation, of course, timelines have been affected, timelines of delivery have been affected. And storage facilities have also been an issue because there was quite a surplus of merchandise. And because they couldn't move it from place to place, the stock up was high. And most of these persons could not actually, supply the necessary commodities that they were involved in. And as such, there's been high rate of spoilage. And with perishable goods, of course, once it's spoiled, it is spoiled. So there's been a number of losses. And with markets were closed at one point in time until our president okayed food markets to operate. But even then, numbers had to be cut down. So markets had to devise a way of how to choose particular numbers to operate within the market and on particular days. That has also been another problem, because those that are not operating on a particular day actually have to suffer the loss and spoilage and wastage and etc. How we are actually helping our women, one, in Uganda we have what we call circles. Before even the pandemic, most of our women were involved in circles. These are microfinance, microfinances, where women get into groups to access finances at cheaper rates from different financial institutions that are not necessarily banks. So we have actually involved more of the microfinance entities where these women have actually been operating to work out maybe more stimuluses in these microfinances, how these women can access monies to be able to operate tomorrow, operate better, basically liquidifying them much better. And another thing is with the kids, most of their landlords are not willing to let them work until they pay up the areas of rent. So we are actually in negotiations with arcade owners because that's where most of these ladies do work. Shops have been closed for the last 3 months. Most of them are not operational, but rent is being actually requested by the landlords before they can get back to work. So we are actually trying to get into an understanding with the arcade owners to maybe give them a waiver of some kind, maybe 1 month or 2 months, so that they can get back into operations when the lockdown is lifted. And then maybe they can be able to meet their rent obligations to their landlords. We are actually now trying to reskill, because like we said, it's not going to be business as usual. So there's going to be need to reskill our members. You're not going to have to do business as you used to do it the other time. So we are encouraging them, and we are putting up different training. We are tailoring different trainings, like in form of coping mechanisms, one, and then to also show them how they can reinvent their businesses. For example, if you've been in the crafts business, what kind of crafts are you going to sell going forward? Because as you can see now, not many tourists are coming in, or actually no tourists are coming in. So we are actually encouraging them to reinvent their businesses. If you have been targeting the tourists that are coming into the country, somebody from Zanzibar talked about local tourism, and now we are trying to tailor our markets towards what the people here, the population in Uganda, would be consuming, not necessarily targeting the tourists that come from abroad. So there's going to be, we are tailoring reskilling trainings, reinvention trainings, and then we're also coming up with coping mechanisms, because as we said, COVID will not go away today, and COVID may not go away tomorrow. We don't know when tomorrow will be. But we have to come up with coping mechanism for all our members to make themselves better and to learn how to cope with whatever situation that there will be, for them to get off their feet, embrace whatever situation there is, and then they can move on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Brenda. You are loud and clear. I'm not allowing you to go. We are in experience sharing. I'm not allowing you to go. You along. You mentioned that that Uganda as a government has put a fund as a stimulus package. Are there laid down criteria for the beneficiaries to benefit, to access this fund, so that you can share with us, and we borrow a leaf from you, or people who are following you borrow a leaf from what Uganda is doing? The criteria to access this fund by the beneficiary. Let's share notes and see.
Right now, there's been different talks and different information given by His Excellency, the President of the country, towards an upcoming stimulus that will be channeled, I think, through Africa Development Bank. It's still underway, and we're still waiting for the finality of what comes out, but he has already mentioned it. And as far as the criteria of choosing who best suits to get the stimulus, we're actually still waiting for those guidelines from, because this has to be passed by Parliament and the Prime Minister's office. So we are still waiting for the guidelines that will be passed down to us as private sector on who qualifies, and so we are basically just waiting for those final guidelines from the President. But what we are sure of is the President has noted that there will be a stimulus channeled through the Africa Development Bank. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Brenda. Maybe I'll leave you later alone, but meanwhile, let me go to Kenya. Okay. Kenya Chamber of Commerce. Kenya Chamber of Commerce, I heard about Mr. Masinde Mangare representing Kenya Chamber of Commerce. Masinde, are you hearing me? Can I hear from you, Mr. Masinde, so that you share the experience with us? I have a couple of questions to ask you. Masinde from Kenya. Now, while waiting for Mr. Masinde, let me go to Mr. Paul Koi. Mr. Paul Koi, I have a few questions to ask. Are you online,
yes,
sir?
I'm here online. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr.
I believe
President.
that is Kenya.
Hello?
Yes, sir, Mr. President.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, I understand that that in Tanzania, you've have a plan trying to maintain membership. Maybe some members are unable to pay the membership fees in this period. Do you plan to lose them, or you can maintain them and ask for the carry forward of the membership fees? What do you have? How are you maintaining membership? Because you are a member-based organization like EABC. Please share your experience with EABC on how to maintain membership during this period, where most of our members are not able to pay their membership fees.
Yeah, let me say one thing that remember, we Africans, we are communal life, and we usually come together when we have more problems than really falling apart. So we cannot allow our chamber to fall apart simply because of the membership fee, while actually there's very clear COVID-19 pandemic that has caused all this mess. What in fact, let me say that it's not even an issue within our chamber of the fact that whoever who cannot pay, come forward, tell us clearly what can we do. We sit down and see how we can accommodate each other. But all in all, like any organization, for sure, there has been a challenge to the membership fee payment. Some have been delaying a lot, but all in all, we are willing to accommodate them. And up to this moment, as I'm speaking, it has not been a problem yet, I can say. So I don't see if at all is an issue, but we are ready to accommodate them. What we have done is to issue the so-called letter of encouragement. We did a letter to our members telling them that, look, during this pandemic where everybody is sad, everybody is confused, everybody doesn't know what will be next tomorrow, let us remain calm, let us remain courageous, let us remain optimistic so that we can think forward. And as you know, with a faith in God, we say, let us pray very hard so that we find the way of how to continue tomorrow. May God give us a way through. And thanks a lot to all that has happened. We are still surviving and quite optimistic that we shall be strong. So membership is something that is very, very, very small and very little that cannot really make our headache ache. But rather let us think seriously on the great manner, on the broader manner of how to get the economy back, how to fix the economy back from what so far has been around the globe. I hope I've answered your question, but in addition to that, let me say something that this is also the challenging time that we must accept it to learn new ways of life. You know, challenges and problems sometimes actually we say it's a blessing in disguise. It's very high time we should also focus local, from our own local contents of how we come out on our own. It's not bad to cooperate with our friends. It's not bad to cooperate to get some assistance, but it's very, very, very critical if we can stand on our own and come up with our own way of innovations and be ready to work very hard, trusting and believing that we shall come out of this on our own. It might be a U-turn that tomorrow can be highly appreciated. So We cannot sit aside and complain a lot and like, okay, we have been deceased or something like that as of a member of the family, but let us use this as a challenge to give us courage for a way forward. And I believe if we strongly and sincerely think post-COVID, we can survive this and we shall come up with a lot of innovation. And let me say one thing. I've come to realize sometimes I do think that, hey, it might be not necessary with a lot of money that we use for transport to the offices every day, we can still work at home. As long as we uphold this tendency, this habit, and make sure that we have the resources and infrastructure, it will be so easy that we don't have to spoil our environment by carbon dioxide. If we can cut this even by only 10%, 20%, that for those offices that can work from home, can work from any part where this can help a lot the issues of the environmental issues that actually are haunting Africa today. So with such thinking can help us a lot to come up with new things that will really improve our well-being today and tomorrow. This is what I'm thinking. But the last point that I would like to make there is that I still strongly give it with the financial institutions, that financial institutions are strong enough and they're in a position to help a lot with this situation, irrespective of what's going on. Okay, financial institutions are also equally companies like our businesses, but all in all, they are in a better position, just even by reducing, for example, the interest rate by only 10%, 20%, will have a very big impact. By restructuring, like I said in the first place, giving some grace period will really facilitate to give us a room to reorganize ourselves, to revisit our financial and business plans, so that at the end of the day, in the next 3-4 months, we shall start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And I really, hello?
Thank you so much, Papa Koi. I heard you well.
Thank you.
I heard you well on revisiting our business plans. I want to go back to Kenya, to my brother Masinde. Masinde, first of all, unmute your mic so that you can hear me and I can hear you. Masinde, please, your mic unmute so that we can communicate well. Let me hope that Benson Kasuya is still online while waiting, Brother Masinde.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Let me first see Brother Masinde Mangale from Kenya National Chamber of Commerce. I'm missing the Kenyan part, and I will not proceed without them. We know them well when it comes to business. I can testify that. Colleagues from Kenya, are you following? Are you online? Masinde Mangare. Let me ask my colleagues Silva to look for Masinde. Then meanwhile, let me ask Benson. Benson, you mentioned something on remittances. Of course, these are transfers from US back to East Africa. What was the effect of COVID on these remittances? And what are you planning to sustain them anyway?
Well, thank you very much. Once more, let me thank the organizer of this event for the hard work they put to make us meet and talk, dialogue about the possibilities that may exist. Based on the analysis that I did, and I shared a small slide with you, from January to current, there have been no negative effect of the the funds transfer to Kenya. This is where I picked up the data, which is the largest remittance in the East Africa region. I've seen an increase from year over year. And if you look at the comparison, you see that January, February, March, and April, all those are up slightly from 2019 and 2018. But we know that our businesses have been affected. The sectors that have been affected here in the diaspora are transportation. A lot of guys are in transportation. Healthcare sector has been affected. Food industry, we have restaurant owners that have been affected heavily, and financial services have been affected. But I'm not seeing from the data that I have a negative effect of this of COVID with reference to diaspora remittances to East Africa. But I think it's coming. It's kind of too late too early to measure this, because in the next few months we'll know the effect. If the economy continues to tank, then they'll probably be more constrained to send moment. But we do really, I personally myself, I'm talking from experience, my experience in the region, I care a lot about my people in the region. And if I'm going, the only time I'm gonna stop helping them is if I can't eat that day. Because I think if I'm eating, I should share the meal with them. So there's that emotional attachment that we cannot, you cannot evaluate how people feel. But from the data that I'm seeing, the diaspora is very, very affected emotionally about their folks back in the region, and they want to continue to do that. But the business is also very affected. So I think the injection of capital the U.S. government is providing is going to help these businesses recover. It might not recover as quickly as possible, but it's going to make a recovery, and it's going to rebound after a period of time. But I think they'll continue to recover. I want to make a short comment about what Brenda said about the question you had asked. East Africa Chamber of Commerce continuing to host webinars, Zoom meetings. There's one coming up in June 11 that's specifically for women. That's going to talk about facilitating funding for women owned businesses. We have the experts in the room to talk about how they can do that. We work with national and international organizations that are as a chamber, and I cannot pitch enough to you how critical and how valuable it is for you to be involved in the East Africa Chamber of Commerce in the USA, because we see so much. We're almost a small embassy, a small commercial attaché from the East African region. We are in the middle of the US, and we in Texas is pretty big with a larger diaspora from East Africa here in Texas. So engage us. We want to share our learnings. We want to share some of the companies that have interest in East Africa with you, and then you can direct them to your members who are probably, I'm sure, are business owners, and then to help facilitate trade. We are non-profit, and that should be a very, very easy exchange. Every year we try to invite you folks, and some of you I don't have contacts, but I will after this event. We'll continue to work together, but diaspora remittances are still strong. I'll see what the data looks like at the end of May, because it's not out yet, and I hope it's positive.
Thank you very much, Benson. I'm now proceeding to open the discussion to the audience, because we are managing our time too. Time is limited, as you well know. Benson, I'm still thanking you very much on behalf of my executive director, whom I represented here. You made it, you made us smile, you shared a lot. Please keep on, and keep on. Now, I'm welcoming questions from the audience. I have seen one of the participants, Mr. Geoffrey Kamanzi, is coming up with a question to Brenda. Brenda, are you still with me? Mr. Kamanzi is asking that this COVID, despite of its challenges to our economies, but again, there is some small blessing in disguise. There are some upcoming opportunities that are emerging because of COVID. Now, Ms. Brenda, what are these opportunities brought by COVID, so that we can focus too, while slowly by slowly looking at our economies coming up, recovering? Is it manufacturing of masks alone, or there are any other opportunities brought by COVID? Please, Brenda, go on.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Kamanzi, thank you for your question. And looking at opportunities, I believe even in the worst of situations, there is always something to smile at and pick up. Yes, you have mentioned masks, and I want to say that there are a number of people right now, they may not necessarily be the big companies. Yes, there are some big companies, but there are also some other small persons that have actually tried to make masks, though they must meet the required standards as per the Ministry of Health in our country. And in my own opinion, the opportunities I could look at is this has been a learning process where we are, like I said earlier, we must adapt to the change that has come. For example, if you have been in agriculture, we are going to have to do what I call product substitution. What have you been engaging in? I remember my brother Amit from Pearl Dairies mentioned they're actually trying to change the kind of products that they're now going to avail to the populace. And I must say many Ugandans have actually begun to roll out a number of products that we had never even thought about. For example, we have had an influx of eggs, in as simple as it sounds. But we have a company that has actually, because there were just too many on the market and consumption went so low, they have had to actually come up, I think, with, they've actually come up with a number of products from the eggs that we had never thought of. And I think they'll be rolling them out on the market soon. So among the opportunities, I think people should begin to look at, for example, if I speak at the from a point of view of a transporter, we've had transport as one of the sectors that has remained in operations, despite the many hiccups and challenges and whatever it is. But in my opinion, I think we are going to do more of this small trucking, look for more smaller trucks, because you can see, like from our country, they have had to limit even the numbers of persons on the trucks. So we've been looking at the bigger trailers, but I think it is time for us to get smaller trucks. So for the manufacturers of smaller vehicles, I think that's an opportunity to look at what kind of trucks they are going to roll in. I've talked of the agriculture sector. I have talked of the markets. Maybe we are going to have to come up with bigger markets or smaller markets, because we've been looking more at the bigger markets. I'm talking about food markets. So we are going to have maybe to come up with more community markets, not necessarily the big markets. So these are more opportunities. Then we have what we call the door-to-door deliveries. I think that's something that people need to look at more. Instead of concentrating on going to markets, going to shops, now they are closed. But it does not remove the fact that we need the products that the suppliers are giving us. So we are going to look at the more door-to-door deliveries. And I think we are looking at modes of delivery. We are looking at modes of communication. I spoke about the communication channels. We are going to have to change a lot of things. And I think this is not going to be about the big companies, but I should say everybody has an opportunity to reinvent themselves, to come up with something new, and yes, to benefit one another. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Brenda. Please stay online. Many questions are coming. Let me go back to my brothers from Kenya. Experienced a network problem. They are present. I can see them online, but when I communicate, they can't hear me. These are network issues that we shall help to solve in East Africa. Brother Masinde or any other colleague from Kenya, please, if you happen to connect again, raise your flag. Raise your flag. Brother Masinde Mangare, or any other brother or sister from Kenya Chamber of Commerce, I'm ready to welcome you. Meanwhile, as I'm waiting, there is a question for Brother Amit, Dairy Farms, CEO Dairy Farms. Amit, are you still online?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, one of the participants asked you a question on the costs of logistics and how you are meeting it, any change on cost of logistics, how are you trying to overcome it? Because when you presented, they understood your dairy products cross all over East Africa. Are there any logistics change in terms of cost due to COVID? Please tell the participants to raise this question. Yeah,
so we've not seen any increase in cost of logistics, but we've seen an increase in time in deliveries. For example, earlier we used to take 15 days to take our products to Tanzania. Now that's extended up to around 30 to 40 days, given the fact that it's difficult sometimes to get trucks for Tanzania. On the Kenya side, earlier we used to clear shipments at the border within 2 days. Now it can go up to 10 to 15 days. So what this means is that we have additional costs as a business, because we now need to plan for a longer timeline for our raw materials, packaging that comes from Kenya and abroad, and that is going to take longer to clear. So effectively, we have indirectly higher costs of business, because we now have to stock more, because we have to manage this logistics delays that are occurring at the borders. And also we incur more damages, because our products, if they're just sitting at the border for 10 to 15 days, they're perishable products and that need the handling with care. So, we see more damages and leakers in our liquid products. So the logistics issues are costing us, but not in the amount we're paying to the transporters, but the indirect impacts are very high.
I get you, Brother Amit, on a rational level of cost on logistics. Now, let me go to another question from the audience that is following us. While waiting, colleagues from Kenya. The question again is addressed to Brother Amit. Amit, on young entrepreneurs, what advice would you give to the young entrepreneurs, small SMEs now? With your experience, Amit, you can tell something about young entrepreneurs, young SMEs that are now struggling to come out, to stand strongly. All of you speakers talked about being resilient. What would you advise young entrepreneurs? It's a question from the audience, sir. Amit.
Yeah, so I mean, you should never waste a crisis. And what happens during pandemics and such crises, most of the big organizations would be slow to react to the new requirements of the market. So this is a very big opportunity for new entrepreneurs and people who are starting business now, because they will be the first to pick up the new trends. As my colleagues say, there's a huge trend in online deliveries, and the young entrepreneurs are probably better suited for that kind of business. And also the many gaps and new innovations that can be implemented during such pandemics. And effectively, I think it's a very, very big opportunity. And thinking out of the box is what's going to take anybody forward during this time.
Okay. Thank you so much, Amit. Thank you so much, Amit. We are towards our end. We are soon concluding. Of course, we have to summarize the recommendation of this session. And as ED promised you while opening, he promised you to take the recommendations of this meeting to the higher level. We are an advocacy organization, and we make sure we reach out to the Council of Ministers. We meet, there is the CEO forum. We as EABC, we have even went ahead to engage heads of state. So as I can summarize for you, as the key takeaways for this session, EABC and chambers from today on, we are going to come up with a calendar of trainings that are targeting the skills gap, to address the skills gap. You heard well what Madam Brenda said. Everybody talked about re-strategizing. You cannot re-strategize without planning on training. As EABC and is an umbrella organization of the Apex Board of ESC private sector, we are also working with all of you to secure large grants that can address these challenges that we are all looking at. Number three, we are EABC and chambers will not misuse this crisis. We will sit together and see what are the opportunities brought by COVID. You heard again, Uganda Chamber telling us about deliveries, you heard about manufacturing. Every crisis has its own blessing in disguise. So there is a plan that we shall roll out between us as the EABC and the chambers on what to do together. Next is all the speakers, panelists. Let it be Papa Koi from Tanzania. We are saying that this customs union has a lot to be done on NTBs. We still have transit tracks on our borders. We have done a lot as EABC, but we still need to continue our advocacy on cross-border trade. So we want to see customs union being fully operationalized. That is a key recommendation to carry forward, to recommend from this meeting. If you allow, we shall also make sure that trade facilitation measures are fully revisited in East Africa, so that we don't sit here, we don't meet in meetings and talk about all this when there are some challenges elsewhere. Those challenges on trade facilitation, with all our partners, we stand to work together as chambers and we revive our trade facilitation. Our brother Amit talked about NTBs across borders when you are in the supply of ESC. I want to assure you on behalf of my executive director, these NTBs are going to be incorporated. The advocacy on NTBs are going to be incorporated in our day-to-day activities. Next, as a recommendation on the way forward, I'm looking at domestic tourism. We heard about Brother Hamad from Zanzibar Chamber of Tourism when he was telling us on East African tourism, local tourism. As EABC, this will be part of our recommendation from this meeting, part of our action plan, that let East African visit East Africa, enjoy East Africa, not waiting, let others come from outside to supplement what we are doing so that we mitigate even on dependency. Then I'm looking at removal of national protectionism. The time came when some would protect his or her territory, but that was not in the spirit of East Africa. We needed a coordinated approach. Those are like few recommendations. I'm sure that the rapporteur is hearing me, is taking note. Let me now get one closing remark from each panelist. I will begin with Amit. One closing remark. Amit, please, what will you recommend for this meeting?
Thank you so much. Thank you for organizing this EABC. I would only recommend that, during Corona, the COVID times, it's very, very challenging. And it is now that all neighbors need to work together and hold each other's hand, because as a single country, no country in the EAC can handle this COVID challenge. Some need tourism, some need trade, somebody has a surplus, somebody doesn't have something. So I think the biggest takeaway for me is that, all of EAC has to work together and allow trade, which is the best way of changing the livelihoods of our farmers and our people in East Africa. And I think, thank you for saying that you will advocate for NTBs to be removed, and that will really, really help the region. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amit. Let me hear from Papa Koi. Papa Koi, one key recommendation, please. Are you with me?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you. Please recommend for this session.
Yeah, what I can say that such a sessions are good sessions, and I think this should be the beginning, and we have to develop an habit where we can openly meet and discuss financial issues, not only with the COVID-19, but I believe within the region or East African community. There are a lot that if we keep on discussing and coming together to brainstorm, share the experiences, that will really be great. So I would strongly suggest that we should keep on with these regular meetings whenever there are issues, so that we can really push our region ahead. But lastly thing, I wanted to address one very important point, the moderator, that EABD, our East Africa Development Bank, we want to see them come up and do something in this particular time. I don't know their structure much, but I believe they can do something. We have to focus on our local content, on our own efforts, and see what they can do. It's high time we really need them for issues like stimulus. I'm quite happy with FDB, the African Development Bank, but we want to see also the EADB coming up front. Thank you very much, and wish all the best for my colleagues.
Thank you very much, Papa Koi. Secretary General, Madame Brenda. Secretary General, Uganda Chamber of Commerce, Madame Brenda. Can you recommend one or two from this session?
Okay. Thank you very much once again. A lot has been said, but what I can only wrap it up in this way. Let us speak with one voice in all we do, and let us keep our working borders open. We are one at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Brenda. I liked your summary. Now, Ahmad Hamad from Zanzibar. One or two recommendations, my dear brother.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think we need to keep a positive mind. We should understand that these situations happen and it will go. Or as our president say, we are going to live with them. So we have to keep the positive mind so that we can proceed with the businesses. But also we should take the lessons seriously. I know we have learned a lot through this pandemic in terms of business, in terms of finances. So we should take these lessons seriously and learn from them and proceed on them. But also, as I have commented, we have to engage the youth. We have to engage the youth who business, but also those from now, because we are entering the new world.
Tell the lady I'm on.
Yeah, as we are entering the new era, these youth they are going to escalate the businesses, their own business, but also the existing businesses. So that's all from me. Thank you so much.
Hello.
Thank you so much, my brother.
Hello.
I'm missing Zanzibar. If all God willing, we shall come and be part of the tour.
Yes.
I have
Hello.
seen Brother Masinde joining.
Yes. How are you?
I'm wondering, Brother Masinde, can you say something?
Yes. I would like to say I'd like to greet everybody in the forum and apologize for this communication breakdown, but I'd like to give a very brief perspective of what you've been able to do and what you are doing at the moment.
Yes.
Thank you
Proceed,
very
my
much.
brother.
I want to say that on behalf of Chamber, we are supporting the business community today. We were able to do analysis of the sectors that have been affected in terms of COVID. We gave an analysis of which sectors have been hit so hard, and we've been able to share information in terms of how do we support these in terms of business continuity. And the key areas that we've been able to give support in terms of business continuity, if you look at the SMEs which have been hardly hit by this situation, you've seen a lot of uncertainty in these sections, where we've realized a lot of revenue loss, disruption in supply chain, job losses, and then difficulties in the movement of the essential goods, and even job losses at given institution. So today, as an institution, we work very closely with the government in terms of a multi-sector approach on how well do we support the SME sectors to hold on the gains that they've already had as a business. And we've given key measures in terms of supporting the SMEs. One, we've told them one of the primary roles is to look at how well do we observe the guidelines that have been given by government to make sure that we observe this to stop the spread. Two, we are supporting them on continuous program in terms of business continuity by giving them skills on how to manage the business operations and save and manage on how they can move forward. The government with the other partners, particularly the banking industry, they have given some key measures in terms of tailored packages, in terms of solution on how to support issues to do liquidity and support to the SMEs through the central bank. Today, the Kenyan government has also given some measures in terms of what we call the stimulus to give support to the SME sectors, and they have established what we call the credit guarantee scheme that we're going to spread the issue of credit support to the SMEs to be able to access credit. And then we're also working closely with the other partners on major proposals on post-recovery. Post-recovery, what are we putting in place to make sure that we address the issues of economy apart from the government stimulus that has been given? What are we doing to stabilize the markets? We are working very closely with the government established committees, particularly on the economic issues, to make sure that businesses can go on in a very well-tailored and careful manner. We're also looking at how do we reactivate and build the other sectors of the economies in terms of moving forward. So basically, this is part of what we are doing today as a chamber. Our role is to make sure that there is continuity in terms of businesses building skills, providing support with financial institutions in terms of making sure there is liquidity, and then working closely with the government on the stimulus efforts to make sure that we are moving forward as a country and the business community to hold on the gains that have already been achieved. And moving forward, we'll also look at what are the potentials that COVID presents in terms of us realigning the sectors of business. Four key areas of interest that you are looking at. One, we are looking at the potential opportunities in terms of reactivating local manufacturing, because we've seen there's a lot of shift. Business engineering, business restructuring in terms of making it right. Looking for alternative markets that will support the markets that we've never had, even looking for new partners moving forward. And then realigning the business operations in terms of future engagement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Masinde. You made it well.
Hello?
And we are very appreciative of the efforts that you use to be part of us, share ideal measures that you have in place for business continuity in Kenya, and some lessons learned. Thank you very much. Yeah, you've
Hello?
I can hear some noise. You can now mute. You found us when we are including remarks in coming up with. I'm now calling upon Brother Benson Kasue. You followed these discussions very well, attentively. What are two recommendations that you would require us to carry forward?
Thank you very much. Once more, let me thank the organizers of the East African Business Council for putting this meeting together. If you please mute your phone so that we can have an uninterrupted discussion, if you don't mind. And maybe the moderator can mute those people that are on, because you have the ability to mute it.
You see, I am here. When you are hosting Israel delegation.
Moderator, can you mute the those who are speaking?
Brother Masinda can mute.
Okay, good. I don't hear any difference. Yes. So let me first of all start by thanking you, the organizers of the event, for allowing us to have this forum. My recommendations on this are just about 4 R's. This: reinvent, retrain, recover, and reinvest. And after that, you share the learnings so that the community, this community, can continue to flourish and get back to normal. Because I think that's what's going to take. As far as diaspora is concerned, we'll continue to support as much as we can. As far as the chamber is concerned, we'll continue to invite you to be partners so that we can learn together. I think this COVID for sure is not going away. We just have to change how we do things. I think there's a great opportunity for training people that want to train new skills. There's a great opportunity because I see some of the skills kind of not being fully recovered. But that's what I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Benson. We are concluding. I appreciate all the contributions from panelists. Let it be you, Benson, Madam Brenda, Mr. Masinde, who came in just a few minutes ago. Amit Saga, you did so well. Papa Koi, you did it well. Hamad, you made us feel that we should have tourism in East Africa. The technical team that supported all this from EABC, the EABC team, you are so useful and relevant in this. As we conclude, I take this opportunity on behalf of Dr. Peter Matuki, the CEO of East African Business Council, who delegated me to moderate this for him. Thank you. I would say thank you to all of you. Thank you very much for your contributions. To the participants who attended this online meeting, I thank you very much. Please keep integrating East Africa economically. Indeed, this is a private sector-driven integration. I would say bye for now. Let's meet another time. Laboratoires will share the report of this meeting, and God bless you all for your contributions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.